Hey there! This week we're doing something a little different. We're going to be going over a video by Kyle Butt again.
Bubble butt, bubble, bubble, bubble butt.
No, bad demon. Anyway, I am fresh back from Texas for a siesta. I had a great time. I got to costume a bit, and some of you actually found me. For those of you that dropped by, I thank you for your support. You're all fucking amazing. Anyway, back to
Butt.
Kyle Butt. He came out with a video that, well, I'll let him tell you what he's going to talk about.
The Bible is the most historically accurate book ever penned. Hundreds of ancient discoveries verify its accuracy, and here's a list of 9.
Yes, things the Bible got right. From an atheist. No, today is not opposite day at all. Even I will admit there are things the Bible does indeed get correct. The biggest lies tend to be based on things that are true. What we will be going over is how accurate these 9 things are, and if they are evidence that the other claims in the Bible are also correct. Do any of these accuracies say that God is real? For example, in the books of Harry Potter, London is mentioned, and it gives an accurate representation of London, England. But that doesn't mean Diagon Alley exists with magic potions and wands flicking spells everywhere. Anyway, we should probably get started. I can't believe we're actually doing biblical accuracies. It's not like this is April 1st or something.
Number 1, the Pilot Inscription. In 1961, in an Italian-sponsored dig in Caesarea, archaeologists uncovered a stone that had a Latin inscription on it that said Pontius Pilatus, prefect of Judea.
Oh, the Pilate Stone! Yes, this stone does exist and confirms the existence of Pontius Pilate. But here's the thing. That's all it really confirms. And we already knew that Pilate existed from other sources in Roman documents and other Jewish authors. No one claims that Pilate was not a real person. And when it comes to the New Testament, most of the figures of authority that you read about in there are legitimate. The books also talk about Herod and Quirinius, both existing around the same time and both having been independently verified. But does this confirm anything beyond that? No, not at all. Just because Pilate was a real person doesn't mean that the rest of the story about the crucifixion and resurrection are true. And that's fine. The point here is to prove that Pilate was real. No one's going to have an issue with it. So what's the second one?
Hezekiahs Tunnel. In 2 Chronicles 32:30, we read a statement that says, "This same Hezekiah also stopped the water outlet of Upper Gihon and brought the water by tunnel to the west side of the city of David." You would think that if a king had dug a tunnel under Jerusalem, we would be able to find it, and that's exactly what we find. A huge tunnel that matches perfectly the biblical description of Hezekiah's Tunnel.
Okay, this is interesting. So I checked out this passage. First thing I noted was in the New International Version, it said he diverted the water. So I thought, hey, this might not be a tunnel. Let me check on the other versions. None of the ones I looked at, including the corrupt King James, called it a tunnel. Just water diversion. Well, okay then. Claim debunked, right? Nope. Wrong. Biblical and archaeological scholars both agree this is how the diversion took place. Through the scripture reads it as a channel in most places instead of a tunnel. The difference is that a channel tends to be open top and not a tunnel. But for it to be a tunnel is not unheard of at all. Now, what does this mean? Nothing really. I mean, look at the Romans and other cultures at the time. This was a common thing to do. Moving water from one place to another would have been a relatively common practice. Getting water from one side of the city to the other is nothing compared to the Roman aqueducts that came up later, or other structures that city leaders made at the time for the distribution of water. None of this is really new. The cool thing? It might not be the same thing that Hezekiah built. The tunnel that was found travels from the spring mainly to the south and veers slightly west. But I'm not going to dispute the folks that know more than I do. So what does this all say? A tunnel was built to transport water. Already Kyle is more honest than Ray Comfort ever was. Holy crap. I'm starting to like Kyle here, and I don't want to make him the butt of any more jokes. Damn it.
Number 3, the Taylor Prism. In 1830, a man by the name of Robert Taylor uncovered a 15-inch tall clay cylinder. There are 500 lines of written text on this clay cylinder, and it was put there by a man named Sennacherib. Well, Sennacherib was a king of Assyria that you read about in the Bible. On the clay cylinder, here's what Sennacherib said. As to Hezekiah the Jew, he didn't submit to my yoke. I laid siege to 46 of his strong cities, walled forts, and to the countless small villages in their vicinity, and conquered them by means of well-stamped earth ramps and battering rams. It's interesting when you compare Sennacherib's statement of what he did with the biblical statement of what he did. In 2 Chronicles 32:1, we read, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and entered Judah. He encamped against the fortified cities, exactly like Sennacherib says he did.
Yeah, another one we don't need the artifact he's talking about to give account for the actual events. Just another verification of it. There are several different artifacts that give credence to this area of the Bible, and in fact, this is of the same chapter as the last one. So I read the whole chapter. Jerusalem stood because they defended better. Even the Bible gives clues to where Hezekiah gave shields and weapons to everyone in the city for the defense. But if God came down to fuck them up, why didn't Sennacherib mention any of that? I would think that would be a major part of why he didn't win Jerusalem, but instead, it was just repelled normally. The Taylor Prism doesn't confirm any of the other accounts of the claimed events of 2 Chronicles chapter 30, where God is alleged to have done everything. So what do we have here in the end? Did Sennacherib attack Jerusalem?
Yeah, bitch!
Of course he did. Did it get recorded?
Yeah.
Of course it did. Does the Bible mention it?
Yes!
Of course it does. Does that mean God took action against Sennacherib?
Maybe.
Fuck you, demon. Not a chance. If that were true, Sennacherib would have noted it. He noted that he didn't conquer it, and did note that he conquered other cities in the same area protected by the same God. Next.
Discovery number 4, the David Inscription. For many years, people said that David was a figment of the Israelite imagination because no archaeological finds had been discovered that verified his existence. And yet, in 1993, in Tel Dan, there was a man who was working named Abraham Byron who discovered a stone, and on that stone was the inscription of an Israelite king from the house of David. The Bible uses that very designation in 1 Kings 12, verse 19. The David inscription validated the biblical text.
Only semi-correct. Where, yes, the House of David is a thing back then, we don't know if David was actually a person or just a title given. Sure, the Bible references the House of David as recently as the New Testament, but this is paltry in comparison to the existence of David himself. Both Matthew and Luke mention King David in Matthew chapter 1 verse 6 and Luke chapter 3 verse 31, though the latter doesn't call him King David, but it does mention Jesse in both Gospels as being the parent, so it's justifiable to assume it's the same David. But the lineages of the two there are completely different. Did King David exist in an unbroken line? Who knows? For all we know now, again, that line is more of a title, or it could be a familial line of succession. Either way, the House of David was a well-known thing, with no one needing the David Inscription, or more aptly named the Tel Dan Inscription, for where it is found. So, still today, even with that inscription, we can't verify that David actually existed, though the inscription does let us know that the title was used deeper into the past. We may never truly know one way or the other. So what's next?
The Nazareth House. In 2008, a skeptic named Rene Somme wrote a book that he claimed destroyed Christianity once and for all. He said that Jesus could not have existed because there was no town of Nazareth in the first century. In 2009, an archaeological discovery was announced that they had found a small house in Nazareth that dated to the first century. The house was only about 900 feet square total, but it was large enough to provide evidence of the Bible's accuracy.
Honestly, I think this one should have been fucking obvious. Granted, Nazareth wouldn't have been a huge hub of activity. It was a small village of a few hundred people. Back in biblical times, archaeologists have deduced that Nazareth was primarily a farming community, which of course would have needed a carpenter to aid in construction and building tools for the community. Thus, Joseph would have had work in Nazareth. All in all, yes, Nazareth existed. So what does this mean? Again, nothing. Just because one village actually existed means the old text referenced an actual place. And that's fine. Personally, I think it's more crazy for the atheist guy to have said it never existed. The bonus thing here is we only found one single house. We haven't found the village itself. So what this means is we still haven't found the village itself. I mean, we found a farm potentially. This means more research is needed. We should do that, but along the same lines, we don't want to dig up the established city that's currently sitting there.
Number 7, the Cyrus Cylinder. In 1879, Hormuz Rassam found a small clay cylinder. It's about 9 inches long, and it's now in the British Museum of Natural History. In the ancient city of Babylon, he uncovered this, and this clay cylinder was commissioned by King Cyrus. And it had an inscription on it about his victory over the city of Babylon and his policy toward the nations he had captured. And the text said, "I returned to these sacred cities on the other side of the Tigris, the sanctuaries of which have been in ruins for a long time, the images which used to live therein, and established for them permanent sanctuaries." The policy, often hailed as Cyrus's Declaration of Human Rights, coincides perfectly with the biblical account of the ruler's actions, in which Cyrus decreed that the temple in Jerusalem would be rebuilt, and that all the exiled Israelites who wished to join in the venture had his permission and blessings to do so. You'd read that in Ezra chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. This little 9-inch long clay cylinder stands as impressive testimony that validates the biblical accuracy.
You're doing so good, Kyle. But no, you're not being honest here. What the cylinder actually says is this: Akkad, the land of Shuna, the city of Zamben, the city of Metrunu, or whatever it is, Dur, as far as the border of the land of Goti, the sanctuaries across the river Tigris, whose shrines had earlier become dilapidated, the gods who lived therein, and made permanent sanctuaries for them. I collected together all of their people and returned them to their settlements. And the gods of the land of Sumar and Akkad, which Nebonis, to the fury of the Lord of the gods, had brought unto Shanua at the command of Marduk, the great Lord, I returned them unharmed to their cells in the sanctuaries that made them happy. Lots of words that are hard to pronounce. Please forgive me for butchering the names there. But through the entire text, Cyrus is repeatedly said to worship the god Marduk. And though he recognizes other gods, he did everything to honor Marduk and not the biblical God like the book of Ezra claims. So yeah, sure, Cyrus existed. But the Bible is not accurate about who Cyrus worshipped or why he did it. The Bible thus has an untruth in it, and the Cyrus Cylinder is evidence of that. Do better next time, Kyle.
Number 8. The discovery of the Pool of Siloam. In 2004, a majestic stepped entrance to the Pool of Siloam was uncovered in the area known as the City of David. In John chapter 9, verse 7, we read that Jesus said to a blind man, "Go wash in the Pool of Siloam," which is translated sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Validation once again of the biblical accuracy.
Wow, yes, there was a pool there. I don't think anyone really even denied that there could have been a pool there. I mean, it was just a reservoir for people to get water and to, yes, wash. This is the story of the man that was blind from birth, where Jesus spit in the ground, made a bunch of mud, and covered his eyes. The takeaway for Christians isn't the pool, but more the miracle. The pool itself meant nothing and was just a place to wash the mud back out. Does this say that the pool that was found is the same pool? No. The scripture doesn't even give an exacting location. Could it be? Well, yeah, sure, why not? But does it say Jesus performed a miracle there just because we found what might have been the Pool of Siloam? Not a chance.
Number 9, the Hittite Tablets. For many years, people made fun of the biblical text and said it mentioned people and places that never did exist. One of those groups was the nation of the Hittites. But in 1906, Hugo Winkler was doing some excavation in the Turkish city of Baghdad's Koy. There he uncovered 10,000 clay tablets that documented the history of the Hittite nation, and they discovered that that area was the capital of the Hittite nation. In Joshua chapter 11, we read about the Canaanites in the east and the west, and the Amorite and the Hittite. In 1906, Hugo Winkler discovered the Hittite nation that the Bible had mentioned some 3,000 years before.
To be fair, people made fun of the Bible for a lot of things. I don't know about the Hittite being part of that, but if we had no record of them existing, I could... Wait. 1909? 1909. Really? We found it way more than 100 years ago. And you mean to tell me you know people were making fun of the Bible on the Hittites? Where? When? At what point did you witness this? Furthermore, we knew the Hittites existed before this back in 1834, when we found their city. Until then, with the peoples there being wiped out, they were all but forgotten, but with the sole remaining text of their existence being the Bible itself. Okay, great. The Bible got something else correct, but in the existence of these people in ancient time. And I'm certain that many more of the peoples mentioned in the Bible actually did exist, and that's all perfectly fine too. But it doesn't say that the claims of Joshua tearing through the land with God's holy fire is the truth. Only that Joshua led a bloodbath army through that area, killing everyone they could get their hands on.
The Bible is the most historically accurate book ever penned.
Now, I still don't know about that. You can't say that just because some places did in fact exist, that everything in the Bible is truth. Once again, Harry Potter is a story that starts out in London, England, and we can verify that's a real place, but no one in their right mind is going to think that Harry Potter came back from the dead to defeat Lord Voldemort.
Fuck you.
Works of fiction are based on real places all the time, but they're still fiction. Now, I want to give a shout out to all the people that commented on my Ray Comfort Biblical Science video that came out a couple of weeks ago. This video is just for all of you that decided I needed to be taken down a notch with passive-aggressive comments telling me you need to pray for me. Bitch, I was raised Roman Catholic, baptized Roman Catholic, converted to Christianity, deconverted and found truth in Wicca for 25 years of my life. I was a witch for 25 years of my life. I have been a theist for the majority of my life. I found all of it was garbage several years ago, and I am much better for it. I am on a quest to learn and find truth, and that is the point of me doing this YouTube channel. I want to find the truth, so I keep reading and I keep looking, and I find no truth in your Christian doctrine. If you want to help give me a thumbs up and comment a constructive feedback, please do. If you don't want to help, give me your thumbs down and stop watching my comment. No one's going to be upset with you and no one's holding you here. For those that love this content and want to see more, I am Corsi and this is the Fluffy Atheist. Give me that like and subscribe for good measure. And remember, if you faith around, I'll help you find out what your Bible really says.